Hi, I'm back. Sorry, hit the wrong button. Um, anyway, what I wanted to say is that it's a matter of your negative perception. That you have to just turn that around and just think about all I'm going to focus about when I'm up there is what I'm trying to say, and not about how I'm feeling, not about people are looking at me, but thinking about the message that you want to get across. Because ultimately, the goal is to try and disappear up there. I mean, when I lecture, I'm not thinking about are people looking at me, or what am I looking like. I'm thinking about what I'm saying, and that's really what should be the overriding memory and message of anything that happens up at the podium, is that you are conveying a message, and that people should be so focused on what you're saying that you end up sort of disappearing. But if you're making yourself the centerpiece of what's happening up there, they're looking at me. Is my hair okay? All of those things that make people start focusing their attention inward. That's when things start getting kind of off the rails. So really, the focus is trying to bring a positive, upbeat, um, supportive attitude as you're going up to the podium, and thinking about what you're doing, not about the fact that people are looking at you. And again, that's just going to be a matter of training and getting up at the lectern, and feeling the experience of having people respond to you. Because quite frankly, I mean, nobody wants you to not do well. It's not fun to watch someone forget what they're going to say, like I was just doing a minute ago. um, and it's funny because it's a video and I could have stopped it and started again, but you know what? I'm gonna just keep barreling through. But nobody wants that to happen. We all want you to succeed. We want to learn what you're going to teach us. We want to hear your message. We want to participate in this. Nobody sits in an audience and thinks, "Oh, I hope this is going to bomb because that'll be really fun." And that's the last element of your own personal perceptions, and it's that negative audience perception. And somewhere, in our childhood, maybe somebody made fun of us on the playground, or we had a big brother who teased us, or somebody said something that hurt our feelings. And so we bring that negative perception along with us into our adult lives. And we do things that try and shield us from having our feelings hurt again, or have somebody make fun of us, or having us humiliated, or feel uncomfortable. And again, being in front of an audience is a vulnerable position. And so some people feel as though perhaps the audience does want them to fail. I mean, again, these are things that we create in our head as we're processing all of the input of the prospect of public speaking. Particularly in this class. Now, and we're not talking about like out in the political arena, or any kinds of real world scenarios where, yes, some people do want people to flop. And I mean, I guess that's why people go to NASCAR, is just see the and hockey games, and that sort of stuff. But in our classroom, I mean, I we are going to support each other, and we all want each other to succeed, and we're going to enjoy the speeches. So if you can understand that coming into this, and understand that we are supporting you and that we're supporting each other, that may help. So that's, I mean, again, it's just taking those component pieces apart of where our potential anxiety might come from. And, it's not like you're going to say, oh, now I get it. Huh, great. I'm not scared anymore, or I'm not nervous, or this is going to be great. I've got it. But again, as you're preparing and processing, uh, if you take all of those things apart and thinking about them when you're trying to develop that plan, how am I going to feel confident up there? How am I going to get myself comfortable up there? Thinking about those things, it just doesn't make it one block of anxiety. So, with that said, that's where some of the sources of perhaps our anxiety comes from. But now what do we do? How do we make these words come out of our mouth in a compelling and convincing manner? Okay, so I'm feeling like, all right, I'm maybe a little bit nervous about this because it's my first time up in front of this class. And well, now what do I do about that? Again, we're going to take it apart. So with public speaking, the delivery, is something that we can also take apart. And I basically put it into three categories, and that would be the head, which we basically just talked about, the heart, and then the body. So the head part is not only all of the work that you do to build up your speeches and have them adequately prepared and put good thought and time and effort into them, which shows. I mean, it will translate as you are up saying these words. You can tell the difference between someone who has maybe just thrown something together and somebody who's really put some good thought into it. And even if it doesn't, translate perfectly, if not every word comes out of somebody's mouth perfectly. A case in point, here I am in my office. The words aren't coming out of my mouth perfectly, but I'm barreling through. People care about that less than what is she trying to say? What does she know that I don't know? What has she got to share with me? What is exciting in her world? That's the thing that we should be focusing on. So, doing the good work, finding the concrete examples, using specifics so that we can enter into your world, know your world, understand your message, all of those things. That's part of the head part, but it's also, again, the psychological approach that you bring to it, and whether you are turning this into a positive, a challenge, something that you can do. I mean, you may not be perfect at the beginning, but you can do. You can build as we go across the semester that you're going to take it on as a challenge, and maybe you're not going to be great in the beginning, but maybe you get a little better as the semester goes along. So viewing it that way. So it's the intellectual preparation, and it's also the psychological preparation. The intellectual, easy. I mean, that's doing the homework. The psychological is something that you're going to build on. Now, the heart part is actually connecting with your audience. You can do all the preparation in the world. You can think of the greatest argument, tell the best stories, but if you're not engaged, and as I said last week, the term du jour, the current um, word that people are using is mindfulness. Mindfulness. I have been talking about this ever since I've been teaching this course, and it's presence. It's being present. It's being in the moment, thinking about what you're saying as you're saying it, not thinking about words. And this is why we don't write our speeches, because if you write speeches out in sentences, then what you're doing is you're thinking about sentences. What's my next sentence? What's my next sentence? What's my next sentence? But if you're thinking about the essence of what you're saying, if you're thinking about the ideas that you're talking about, then you are connected with what you're saying, and then you will connect with your audience. And you can't do that if your heart isn't in it. So it's great to and for these first speeches, you will have a topic that you are passionate about or knowledgeable about or care about. As I have said, you won't always be given that opportunity to have that kind of topic, but you find a way to connect at least with your audience, even if it's not a message that you're excited about relaying. As I said, if you have to talk about layoffs or budget cuts or things like that, but because it's your profession or your colleagues or somewhere, if your heart's in it and you can connect with the people that you're talking to, they're going to feel that. And that impacts, as we talked about, that symbiosis, because you're not pushing information at your listener. You're not pushing information. You're creating this relationship where and remember, communication, an exchange of information between two or more people. So you're pushing energy out, you're pulling energy back, you're pushing energy out, you're pulling energy back, and it creates this cycle. And the more that you connect, and the more that you're thinking about what you're saying, and engaging with what you're saying, and engaging with your listeners, the more energy they're going to give back to you. That's going to feed this process. So again, it's the heart part, and that's the last place that I always try and ask people to stop when they've done all the other work. Are you there? Are you in this speech?